Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episodes 5 and 6 of Kakegurui Twin. So far, at least, the finale. I'm really hoping there's more, because it just feels like there's just so much more that could be explored. And I don't think they can wrap it up in these last 2 episodes. I think there's just so much more. I don't think 2 more episodes is going to be able to properly explain how Mary became as she is in the main series. So I definitely think there's got to be more to this coming in the future. But since this is it for now, we do have to kind of move on from that. And we will come back to this in the future, obviously, when and if there is more. But for the time being, these have been good. These have been really good. The opening leaves a lot to be desired. It's honestly boring. Which is surprising for a Kakegurui opening. It's like they just didn't put effort into it compared to the openings for the main series. And that's really disappointing. And I hope that's not just because it's a series centering on Mary instead of Yumiko. Because I feel like there's a lot of possibility still to have made a really good opening. But instead they just didn't. And I don't know what the reason was. There could have been a reason, but hopefully, if we do get more, if we end up getting another opening, maybe, which I don't know. I feel like that's a little unlikely. But if we do, I hope it's better. But excuse me. But I'm just hoping that the content actually stays just as good, if not better, because the actual episodes are really good. This series is not as crazy as the main series is. Like, the main series has a lot more of the crazy faces, has a lot more of the insanity of the characters and all. But as I've stated before, I think that's the point. Because this is supposed to be Mary's story and how she became as she is in the main series, it's supposed to show things from a still crazy but less so point of view. So it's building up to that. It's building up to the craziness. And by the end of the series, whenever it does actually end, it's going to be a lot more typical Kakegurui, I feel. Because that's kind of a big point of it. Just from what I'm seeing with the series. But there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered, too. Like, where did these other girls go? Mary's friends are very prominent in this series, but they're nowhere to be seen in the main series. Where did they go? Why did they just disappear? I'm genuinely curious about that. Why are they just not characters anymore, basically? It sucks that we'll probably not know in this set of episodes. But I don't know, maybe we'll get something. I've talked about my theories on it before, like the possibility that they could have left the school or whatnot for one reason or another. But it's too hard to say right now. Especially with how some of these episodes have been going, and we've seen how much Mary genuinely cares for them, and it's almost wild how different Mary is, but how much it makes sense at how different she is. I've actually heard a couple people say that the fact that Mary is so different is jarring, that it doesn't that it doesn't make sense to them, or that it feels like off and wrong. But it's like I'm the complete opposite. Again, I think it feels natural. I think it would be weird if she wasn't different here. The Mary we saw in the main series, even at the beginning, was not like the real Mary. It was her corrupted by this school. This series is literally the backstory for that, how she got corrupted. It shows us what happened to make Mary who she was, and why in the main series we see that she has the propensity for change. Why we see that she is able to become a better person. We see that it's because she was a better person at one point. It's not her changing on a fundamental level. It's her returning to who she naturally is. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's a fantastic idea for really expanding upon Mary's character. And considering I already honestly felt that Mary was my favorite character in the series, it's just it just makes things better. And it's definitely because of all the depth of her character that she's always been my favorite. Like, Yumiko is fun and everything and crazy, but sometimes she can become a little much. Not, I wouldn't say entirely one note, but I mean, because there's a couple episodes that actually show a completely different side to her, such as when she gets angry at Midori's gamble and everything. But Yumiko can just be a little too simplistic sometimes. And there's other great characters too, like Karari and whatnot, but Mary always felt like in any other series she would be the main character, you know? She always felt like she just had something special to her that other characters didn't. And now she is the main character of her own series. It's a spin-off series, but still. So I think this was a smart idea to have the spin-off be centering on her instead of like one of the other characters. They could have easily made a spin-off centering around Karari or one of the other student council members or a lot of different characters and made it like, okay, how did these characters become crazy? But instead they focus on Mary, who's one of the deuteragonists of the main series, along with the male character whose name I can never remember. But she's one of the major main characters as well, along with him and Yumiko. And it's like, it makes a point of developing her in a way that's meaningful. So I really, really like what they've done with this. The gambles have been interesting too. Like, they're not like as dramatic as the main series gambles, but again, that's kind of, I feel, the point. But they're interesting. Like this dating game one, it's like that was very different and very unique from what we've seen with other gambles. So I definitely have to give credit for that. And I hope, again, presuming this series does continue after these 6 episodes, I hope that the gambles start to, like Mary's character, become more and more like crazy as the series goes on. I think that would just be a really smart idea to have that theme continue to go with all these different elements. That would be the best option in my eyes, at least. And obviously, I still have to mention how super fucking gay this series is. And it's just, I can't get over that. I can't get over it. Like, they took a series that was already super gay. Like, again, I think I mentioned this last time. Watch the opening to the first season of Kakegurui, and even the second season to a lesser degree, but the first season opening is like, oh my god, it is so gay. And you watch the actual series, and it's like, yeah, it's super gay. But then they took this series and they ramped it up to 11 by having like an actual, practically an actual romance here. Mary hasn't fully reciprocated it entirely. I don't think I think she sees her as more of just a best friend. But Suzura 100% is super fucking hot for her, for Mary. And it's like, I mean, outside of just, her mentioning now multiple times that Mary is her prince, obviously giving some strong Revolutionary Girl Utena vibes. Even outside of that, it is so fucking obvious that Suzura has the biggest crush on Mary. It is so fucking obvious that she legitimately loves her. And that scares me, because I do feel that when we do find out why Suzura's not in Mary's picture anymore, it's going to be heartbreaking. Because I'm 100% on board with this ship. It's well done in such a way to where I can't help but support it. It's fucking adorable. These two are like really good for each other too. Because Suzura's innocence and cutesiness kind of keeps Mary in line. There's been a couple moments where Mary has been on the verge of, insanity. And Suzura has kind of kept her in line in that way. While Mary's more go-get-em attitude has allowed Suzura to break out of her shell a lot. They work really well together. And I think that is what helps make great relationships in anime, even if they are just ships and not official canon. I think that you need to have not only chemistry, but the characters have to really work well off of each other within the context of the story. And again, they do here, very much so. Extremely much so. Like, you could ship Mary and Yumiko in the main series all you want and all, and you could say a lot about them, but that's more of just because of the way they interact sometimes, due to it being Kakegurui. Just, the craziness, the sexiness, like that kind of general idea. But it's different in the way that it's handled here. It actually feels like they're a couple. Like, it actually gives that feeling, and it's supposed to. You're supposed to root for this couple, and again, I think it's because of where Mary's going to go, and it's going to be heartbreaking. I think that's going to be the final verdict on this series, on the spinoff. It's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to absolutely crush your soul. And it's the weirdest fucking feeling, but I'm ready for that. That's what I want to see in this, because that is how a spin-off, a prequel spin-off on Mary Saotome should go. Because again, it's explaining how she became the bitch she was in the main series at the beginning. It needs to break our hearts. It needs to crush our souls. It needs to show how this kind of nice girl who came to the school to basically give a big middle finger to their entire way of being, how she ended up becoming brainwashed into being one of them. There's no way to make that story end on a happy note. There's no way to make that end on a hopeful or positive note. A story like that needs to be crushing. So again, as weird as it sounds, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for this series to end like that because that's what I want to see out of this series. That's what I want this series to do. What I think it should do. So, yeah. I just wanted to talk for a bit here on my thoughts for this series as we go into these, again, at least for now, final 2 episodes. I do definitely think there's going to be more, though I haven't heard any official confirmation on that. But I hope we don't have to wait as long as we've had to with JoJo Stone Ocean. Like, God. I'm so glad that we're going to get the 3rd set of episodes for Stone Ocean a lot quicker. And that's practically already been confirmed because of the DVD release of the full series. Which I'll definitely talk more about when we actually get back to the Stone Ocean reactions. But I really, really hope that this doesn't end up being that long. I don't want to wait almost a year for more of this. Like a few months, that's fine. I can wait a few months. Even though I really wish I didn't have to, but, you know, it's just how it be sometimes. It's how it is with Netflix and streaming and shit. Because they don't understand how to properly release a series at all. But I'm not going to get into that argument for today. Because I could rant about that forever. Either way, we're going to get into these final 2 episodes, and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I wanted to look it up because I wanted to see if anything had been announced or said or anything, and no, unfortunately. Nothing has been announced for more episodes or a quote-unquote Season 2 of Kakegurui Twin. And, I mean, it just recently came out, so that's not a huge surprise to me, but I kind of, like, expect it. Because the manga that this is based off, the spin-off manga of the original Kakegurui, it has 12 volumes, and I couldn't find an exact amount of volumes that this covers, but I would probably guess somewhere around half of it. So I would say there's probably at least 6 more episodes that could be adapted here. I feel like there's definitely another set of episodes on the way. There's been no official confirmation. Which sucks, because I very much want more of this right now. I mentioned here, and I've mentioned before in these reactions, Mary was always my favorite character from the original Kakegurui series, and that still very much stands. And honestly, I think this series has made it even more apparent for me. Mary's a fucking phenomenal character. And her character, her strength of character, was definitely shown in this finale. And like I said as well in the pre-thoughts and everything, this is not going to end on a happy note. It can't. Because again, we know where Mary was at the beginning of the main series, which is a year after she initially transferred to Hyakio Academy. So we know that she does get corrupted by the school and its gambling mania. We know that's a thing. So this can't end well. And again, we know that her friends, Suzura and and the other girl whose name I can never remember. We know that they are not there in the current day. Why aren't they there? Are they just not hanging around Mary? Are they still at the school? Or did they transfer out of the school? Are they just gone? We don't know. We have no, like, evidence for that. But considering how this ended, how these 6 episodes ended, it's going to hurt like fuck. I will cry. Like, I think before, I think in a previous reaction, I said I will probably cry or I might cry. No, I'm going to cry when it happens. When we see how these friends split up, when we see Mary eventually overtaken by the corruption of Hyakio Academy, when we see her inevitably betray them, I'm going to cry. Not only just because I ship her, Mary and Suzura so fucking much, and I genuinely believe they have phenomenal chemistry, and, you know, just the series is so gay as it is, it's just kind of blatant. I see in this episode how much Mary values her friendship with them, how much she values people as human beings, and how much her goal here is to help people. Like one of her initial goals was to save Suzura and get her house pet status revoked, which she did accomplish. That was one of her main goals. And that's absolutely beautiful. And when she sees the way Aoi treats Sakura in the final episode, she gets fucking pissed. She sees him treat her as less than human, and when he admits that that his interest in her was only because of what her family would bring to his and everything, you see how fucking livid that makes Mary. Because Mary, at this point in time, is a moral person. She's a very good person. And she is so absolutely pissed when she sees someone treated that way. Someone literally brought to bitter tears over being treated as less than human by their fiance. That's fucking terrible. And it's like, I said it myself. I was getting teary-eyed. I was getting really upset for her. Like, before that, I didn't really have any strong opinions on her. I didn't hate her, but I also didn't love her as a character either. But when that happened, it's like, I don't know what it is. I guess you could say, like, some kind of defensive mechanism within me just rose up. And I got really fucking defensive over her, like, in my mind. Like, I was almost, I almost, like, let it out. Like, I almost yelled. Like, I was that upset at what he was saying. I was feeling really defensive for her, and it basically just took that. It basically just took that, and it's like, I'm on her side. 100%. I support her. I love her. I think she deserves so much better than that fucking cunt. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say that. He's a fucking cunt. He's a absolute piece of dog shit. And it's like, I was saying, like, in episode 5 and everything, like, all of this seems too good to be true. His plan, his ideas and everything, what he wants to do by freeing all the house pets and everything. I don't think that's actually his goal. I think that's an excuse. I think that's like I think that's what he's painting it to be, to try to, you know, get people on his side. I think he wants the power. I think he wants to take over the student council. Well, we know he wants to destroy the student council and have his council take over, which would make him the new leader, right? That's his goal. That is 100% his goal. He wants to be the new leader. He wants the power. He wants the control. That is the only real goal he has here. The entire bullshit about trying to free the house pets, I believe flat fucking out that he doesn't want to do that. That if he got in control, he would keep the house pets. That he actually agrees with that, and that this is just entirely a ruse to try to get people on his side. It's funny because in episode 5 and prior to like this big, I guess you could say, reveal, he was another character I didn't know what to think of yet. I didn't have hugely strong feelings one way or the other for him. I didn't hate him, but I also felt like there was something more to him but beyond what we were seeing on the surface. I didn't like him that much either. While I agreed with his goals, I felt, again, since I felt there was something on the surface, I felt like I couldn't completely trust him. And after that, after he basically revealed how terrible of a person he is, and without saying it, basically told us that his goal is not to help people at this academy, that that's not what he's doing this for. It's like everything kind of comes into light, and it's like, oh yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, you absolute fucking cunt. And it's just, I'm sorry, I can't stand, I hate him more than anyone else in this series right now. Like, Sachiko's at least fun. Sachiko is definitely a terrible person, but at least she's entertainingly so, to where it's like, oh yeah, you know she's terrible. She doesn't hide that either. And she doesn't pretend to be all lovey-dovey with a fiancé just to end up stabbing them in the back when they can't do something that she wants. I'm not going to get over it. I'm not going to get over that. I will never get over that. I fucking despise him. Like, I think he is my most hated character in all of Kakegurui. Not just Twin, all of Kakegurui. Because I genuinely don't think another character in this series has pissed me off this actively. Like, there's other characters, obviously, that are absolutely terrible. But I don't think any of them have really pissed me off this much. Like, to this degree, to where I'm this fucking steamed over it, I can't think of one, at least, off the top of my head. I mean, other characters have definitely made me angry, but not to this level. So it's kind of wild. But I love Mary standing up to his ass. And it's basically just saying, like, don't touch me. I don't want you to get anywhere near me with that hand. It basically, again, without actually directly saying it, she feels that he's dirty in a way because of his terrible character. That he's a filthy piece of shit, and she doesn't want him, touching her. Which, fair. Like, Jesus, I really hate him. It's just one of those occasions where it just completely turns me around on one character, on two different characters actually, because it makes me despise him and makes me like Sakura and feel so fucking bad for him. When she's crying, like, oh my god, like that was legitimately getting to me. I was so upset for her because it was made very clear before that she genuinely liked him, that she genuinely loved him. So to see him treat her like this and to see her devalue herself because of it, it's like, oh my god, that is the worst. That is... And in a weird way, I guess you could say, I kind of love that this show did that. That this show made me care that much, that this show made me that angry, this viscerally angry, because that was clearly the point. Like, you're not supposed to side with him, you're supposed to hate him, you're supposed to see him as a piece of shit, just like Mary does. That's the point. So it's like, it's accomplishing its goal in spades. It really is. Anyways, so the final gamble in these two games was kind of a multi-layered one. We start off with this treasure hunt. Both players, Mary and her friends on one side and Sakura on the other, are given these maps by Sachiko, and they have to search the club building for treasure. The maps are coded, though, and because of that, yeah, they have to decode them, figure out what they mean. Both of them start searching the first floor of the building that has 4 floors, which they make a very notable point out of. So I was actually a little surprised when they found the treasure chests kind of right away, too. It just felt like, that seems easy, that they found them, like, on the first floor, when it made a point of saying it was 4 floors. But they find the treasure chests and everything. They start to find some clues, and the clues are songs. And so eventually Suzura is the one who puts it together that, okay, with the songs and everything and looking at the map, it's actually a coded sheet music. And so she figures out how to read it and how to decipher it. Mary helps out and everything. They figure out where the treasure must be. They find a locked chest with a key that doesn't work in the lock. And upon returning to Sachiko, finds out that Sakura found one too. They come to the conclusion that their keys must unlock each other's boxes, so they have to face each other again to figure out who will get the key for their box. So they face each other in this stone game. They pick up stones. It's a simple game where you normally pick up 1 stone at a time out of a total of 20. And that by the end, the person who's left with the last stone to pick up loses. Because whoever picks up the last stone loses. And normally with the game, whoever goes first wins. It's pretty guaranteed. So they decide to change it up a bit by having you roll a dice to choose how many you get. How many stones you pick up at a time. And if you know the amount of ghost stones and everything, it's an easy way to figure out how many there are in total and it's easy to keep track of how many are left. So Mary she plans out this gamble where she has these loaded dice in her pocket and switches them out with the dice every time. And Aoi notices this but doesn't say anything, but Sakura notices as well. In fact, she basically figures it out before the game even begins. So much so that when she's inspecting the stones like Mary had, she actually takes one of the stones, which, unbalances the total number, making Mary miscount. Mary ends up taking the final stone, ends up losing, but that's when it's revealed that she actually had another plan. When she had Suzura and her other friend leave, she had them go to find the real treasures. She figured that the treasures that they found couldn't have been the real ones. And this is proven when Sakura opens her chest and it's realized it's just more sheet music. It's more of the map. The friends return carrying the real treasure, and it's revealed that because the building is 4 floors, you had to look at the sheet music maps in 4 dimensions. As such, it changes the actual true meaning of it. It's genius. I really love this conclusion to this gamble. Mary wins and gloats like fuck. Like, holy shit, she gloats hard. And then the entire thing with Aoi is revealed. Mary basically says fuck off to Aoi because he's a piece of fucking shit. Her and Suzura walk into the sunset as definitely girlfriends. 100%, you can't prove otherwise. And the series for now ends. with a cliffhanger of a post-credit scene showing that AOE has not given up on trying to recruit Mary, and it's very clear there's supposed to be more. So hopefully we do get a quote-unquote second season, or just more episodes of Kakegurui Twin, because this was fucking good. This was really good. It developed Mary's character so much. It gave us some new lovable characters. It was honestly surprisingly gayer than the main series, or at least more blatantly so. And it wasn't as crazy and off the walls as the main series, but it didn't need to be, and I feel it actually works in its favor that it's not. It was still engaging. It was still just absolutely enchanting as a series. I'm a fan. I'm really a fan of this series. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on these final 2 episodes and the series as a whole are. But now we have to move on. So with this series over, we do have to replace it in this slot. And I've been kind of... there's a couple things I've been wanting to get to. There's one thing that's currently been airing, Devil's a Part-Timer Season 2. But I've decided that is already going to be for another slot. That's already reserved for a different slot when something else finishes there. So this slot, instead, is going to be for something I think is a pretty timely series to get back to. Something that, just based on everything that's been going on lately, I think we just really should get back to at this point. I think it's time for us to take one last ride on the Infinity Train. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about that because this series was canceled. And on top of that, it's now been fucked over even further by HBO Max and everything. And it's insane how terrible this entire ordeal has been. So we are getting to book 4 of Infinity Train, the last season, and that starts right away next week. I've heard it's pretty good. I have heard it's pretty good. I heard it's very different than other seasons have been. But otherwise, I don't really know much of any spoilers. I think I know what the main characters look like, but that's about it. So I wish to remain so. No spoilers in the comments. But yeah, next week in this slot, we start with Infinity Train Book 4. So thank you all so much once again for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.